to NLBC Clubhouse! We're so excited to have you guys back this week, and we've got some very special stuff planned. We're gonna be playing some games, we're gonna have a new challenge! Not only that, but we've also got my very good friend and compatriot, Sir Lord!
Hello kids, we're gonna do the verse, so if you could, stand along with me. Psalm 27, some trust in chariots and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God. Now I'm gonna call on a helper, my great friend, Monkey.
Actually, it's Plunkett.
Oh, my bad, our good friend, Punky.
Plunky.
Oh, okay. Our good friend, Chunky.
Yeah, that's close enough. My full name is actually Christopher Plunkett Bacon, also known as Crispy Bacon.
Alright, so I'm gonna say one line,
Okay?
and Chunky is gonna say the next line.
Okay.
Psalm 27.
Some trust in chariots and some in...
Horses, but we will remember the...
name of the Lord our God.
Alright, good job, Chunky.
Good job. Yeah. Good job, kids.
I'm gonna say 2 lines, and Chunky is gonna say 2 lines.
Plunky, but yeah.
Psalm 27, some trust in chariots, and some in...
horses, but we will trust in the name of the Lord our God. No, we will remember the name of the Lord our God. I messed up, Sir Lord. Forgive me. Come back.
Psalm 27, some trust in chariots, and some in...
horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord our God.
Alright, good job, Chunky. Now, we're all gonna say it together.
Woo!
Psalm 27, some trust in chariots, and some in horses, but we will remember in the name of the Lord our God.
All right, kids, great job on the verse. We can't wait to see you next week. Bye.
Hey Clubhouse kids, great job memorizing that verse. I hope you're following along. You're doing it with us as we're taking these verses and memorizing them each week. It's a great thing to do, to be able to memorize God's word and hide his word in our hearts, and so that we have it with us wherever we go. And we might be able to review some of those as we get back and are able to meet here at Moses Lake Baptist Church. Right now we're going to jump right into our lesson. As we started talking about Gideon this past week, we're going to continue right where we left off. Gideon was in a wine press, and he was hiding because he was fearful of this army, the Midianites. And the Midianites had invaded the promised land and had stolen the food and the livestock and the crops, and just left devastation wherever they went. And he was afraid. And God told Gideon, "Hey Gideon, you are a mighty man of valor." And this week we're going to learn a new lesson from Gideon. We're going to pick up right where we left off, where Gideon had then, he believed God, and he was ready to take his army into battle against the Midianites. And men had come to join this army that had assembled and was picking up their shields and armor and their swords and spears, and they were ready to go to battle against the Midianites. But you know, the odds were not in their favor. The odds weren't in the favor because the Midianites had this army. It was a massive army. The Bible talks about how it was 135,000 strong. I mean, that's a huge army. And the Israelites, all the men that came, numbered to be about 32,000. And if you see behind me, this is like what the odds look like. For every one soldier, there was at least 3 or 4 Midianites against it, that they were going to be fighting against. And that's not very good odds going into battle. And because of that, many were afraid. Many were afraid of what would happen. Judges 7:2, talking to Gideon, the Lord said unto Gideon, the people that are with thee are too many for me to give the Midianites into their hands, lest Israel vaunt themselves against me, saying, hey, my own hand has saved me. In verse 3 it says, now therefore go, proclaim in the ears of the people, saying, whosoever is fearful and afraid, let him return and depart early from Mount Gilead. And there returned of the people 22,000. It is saying here that 22,000 men, because they were afraid, Gideon sent them home. God told Gideon, send them home. You know, if you're good at math, you know then that 32,000 men then began to dwindle to what is now 10,000 men. 10,000 men remained in the army of the Israelites. And so now for every one man, there was 13 Midianites that they had to fight. That is, the odds just got way worse. And we're going to see what God says. We're going to see this. It says in Judges 7:4, it says, and the Lord said unto Gideon, the people are yet too many. God's saying, hey, you still have too many men, Gideon. Your army is still too big. And God says, go down to the river, go and tell your men to go drink from the water. And watch them, Gideon, watch what they do. And I'm going to give you some instructions. Gideon watched as men went down to the water and began to get a drink of water. Some men, they were so thirsty. Some men went in and they were so thirsty that they just began to drink. They stuck their head in the water, or like a dog, they got down on all fours and began to lick the water, or just splash it in their face, kind of thing. And most of the men did that. And then there were also some other men that went down to the water, and that they were very aware of what was going on. They went down and they began to drink, but they didn't stick their head down and like many of the men were doing. They began to pull the water, to cup the water in their hands and bring it to their face and drink it while still looking around. And Gideon watched this happen, and God told Gideon, the men that stuck their head down into the water like a dog would do to lap it up, send them home. And keep the ones that were bringing the water to their face. Keep those men, Gideon. And the number of people that, like a dog, drank the water was 9,700 men. That's most of his army. Remember, Gideon only had 10,000 men there, and 9,700 of them drank like a dog. So that left Gideon with just 300 men. God knew Gideon was afraid. And God promised Gideon again that night that you and your little army of 300 men are going to defeat the Midianites. And Gideon didn't ask for a sign, but God told Gideon to do something that night that really strengthened and encouraged him. God said, hey, go down into the camp, Gideon. Take a servant, and you guys go spy on the enemy camp. And so Gideon and his servant, they went quietly over the hillside and went down into the camp, and quietly they went up to a tent, and they began to listen. And they were next to this tent, and they heard people talking inside. This man was telling another man, hey, I just woke up from my dream, and in my dream I began to dream about this giant loaf of bread that came rolling down the hillside, and it hit a tent. And this tent collapsed in a heap on top of everyone that was inside. And he was like, isn't that a weird dream? And do you think it means anything? He asked the other guy. And the other guy, his response was, oh no, that means this, that the Israelites are going to defeat us. It means that their God's with them, and they're going to defeat our army. And Gideon was encouraged. Judges 7:15 says, "And it was so when Gideon heard the telling of the dream and the interpretation thereof that he worshipped and returned into the host of Israel and said, Arise, for the Lord hath delivered into your hand the host of Midian." And Gideon said to his men, "Hey, God is going to give us the victory, and let's go to battle." And this is the plan, guys. This is the plan. We're going to divide into 3 companies of 100 men each, and I'm going to give you your weapons. And Gideon distributed. He gave each man a trumpet to blow, and he gave each man a torch that you can light, and then on top of the torch you're going to put a pitcher to cover the torch. When Gideon gave the signal, the men broke the pitchers. I'm not going to break this pitcher because it's my wife. She might get mad at me. And then the light of their torches shined out, and they blew their trumpet. And then they shouted, "The sword of the Lord and of Gideon." The Israelites stood on the hillside and watched as chaos began to happen. The Midianites began to run out of their tents and began to swing their swords around and began to fight each other. And the Israelites watched as the Midianites just began to destroy each other and then began to run and flee and retreat out of the promised land. And then messages that were then sent by Gideon telling the rest of Israel, "Help us chase away the Midianites out of our land." And they did. And God gave them a great victory that day. Gideon and his men, they totally believed God. They said, "God, we believe you," and they followed God in faith. And what an awesome thing. And it was not an easy situation for them. Things did not look good for Gideon and his 300 men. But God blessed that faith. And God will often give us opportunities for our faith to grow as well. Sometimes life isn't easy. Sometimes God can allow some hard things to be in our life. Sometimes those things are opportunities for us to grow in our faith. For us to trust God and say, "God, this is a good time for me just to trust you, just to believe you and follow you in faith," just like Gideon and his 300 men. And I hope this week that you're going to decide that, "God, I'll follow you no matter how difficult it may be, no matter how hard things get. God, I want to trust you and believe that you will work on our behalf." And it's a great thing to do. So hopefully you've enjoyed this lesson. Hopefully you learned a few things this week. And we'll see you next week and as we continue looking in the book of Judges.
Thank you for listening to this week's lesson, Clubhouse kids. Good job. Hopefully you were paying attention and learned something new about our judge, Gideon. Today I'm going to announce our contest from the scavenger hunt. So many of you did an awesome job and seemed to really have a good time with it. And for the girl winner this week, drum roll. Our girl winner this week is Allie. Good job.
Yay,
You set a record by getting all of your items in 8 minutes and 20 seconds. Good job to you, girl. And then for our boys is, drumroll, Colby. Good job. You also did so well getting all of your items. And when we get back, you'll get to pick a prize from our prize table. And then we have one more thing we're going to talk about.
Starting today, we're going to have a contest going on between the boys and the girls. And we had some runners up just this past week with our contest that are going to be getting points for your team. And we're going to spin the wheel for you. And whatever color it lands on, it's going to determine how many points you get for your team. So we're going to do that here in a second. And this contest will go on until we're able to meet back here in our clubhouse. And so we look forward to seeing who wins this contest. And so we're going to go ahead and spin the wheel now. All right, Adeline's going to help us out with spinning our wheel. And for our first runner-up that we had this week was Kaylee. So would you go ahead and spin the wheel for Kaylee, Adeline? Let's spin it really hard. Ready? There you go. All right. And it landed on green. So green is 300 points. So 300 points for the girls. And go and spin it for Thomas. There we go. For Thomas, we have 400 points. All right. And our next contestant was Lindy. All right. For Lindy, 100 points for the girls, and good job, Lindy. And then our last one was Cooper. And so for Cooper, we spin one more time. And it is green, so 300 points. So 300 points for boys. The contest for this week is reciting the memory verse that we learned with our cow and our pig this week. And how we're gonna do that is we have a church phone number. And you're gonna call in to our church, and if somebody answers, you're gonna just tell it to the receptionist, or if nobody answers, leave a voicemail, tell us who you are, and recite that memory verse over the phone. Don't look at it while you're reciting it, but recite that memory verse over the phone to us, and for every boy or every girl that does that, you're gonna get a spin for your team this next week on our video, and you'll get points for your team. The number for our church is this, it's 509-765-0872. That's 509-765-0872. So boys, girls, participate in this, get points for your team, and I hope you have a great week.